Welcome. Glad you could be here today. So let's jump right in talking about Apple Intelligence, which was the big deal at the Worldwide Developers Conference that kicked off yesterday with a keynote speech. And we're going to talk about the new operating systems and, of course, Apple Intelligence. So this is Go for Lunch for June 11th, 2024, brought to you by GoFor Technology. I am Roger Harmon, your host, and we're here to make your technology work for you. Thanks for the thumbs up. So today is National Get Outdoors Day. Now, obviously, you probably don't want to get outdoors other than early in the morning, but you could go to Mount Lemmon any time of the day to get outdoors and to stay cool. And of course, there's always Sabino Canyon. So some places to celebrate National Get Out of Doors. Get outdoors. So the WWC 2024 presentation kicked off with a great video. I am not going to play it here because I'll probably get a copyright strike. But I encourage you to go to YouTube or to apple.com and watch the WWC video. It's right at the beginning. So it's Craig Federighi and the presenters. They are in this skydiving airplane piloted by Phil Schiller, who is a former vice president at Apple, and I think he is a licensed pilot. And they down their beautiful white Apple jumpsuits and their white helmets and their white eye protection, and they jump out of the airplane. And I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but it's really cute, really well done. Also, make sure and look at the markings on the airplane. So a lot of attention to detail, as is Apple's way, and a fun way to start the Worldwide Developers Conference. Well, of course, CEO Tim Cook kicked it off with an introduction standing on the roof of the Spaceship campus in Cupertino, California, surrounded by solar panels. And he started talking about Apple TV Plus, which has the highest rated original programming for the last 3 years of any streaming service. So that's pretty impressive. They're doing a great job with bringing quality entertainment to us through Apple TV Plus. And then he gave us a preview of what we're going to talk about, and that was visionOS, iOS, Audio and Home, watchOS, iPadOS, and, of course, macOS. So we started off with visionOS from Mike Rockwell, who's a vice president of Vision Products Group. So all of these different systems were introduced by various project managers that worked on them. So here's a kind of a recap of visionOS. They showed how you can create spatial photos with a late model iPhone, or also Canon has introduced a lens that works on their high-end DSLR cameras that can also create spatial photos. They talked about the different environments, like a Bora Bora environment, and a travel mode for trains. So apparently, if you have your Vision Pro on and you're on a train and you take a window and put it up somewhere, it could go away as the train is moving. So if it knows it's on a train, it'll keep it in your vision. They also talked about Apple immersive video. Very impressive. The lady was sitting in her living room, and this group of elephants walked right through her living room. It was really impressive. I'm sure if you had a Vision Pro, it would be even more impressive. They talked about new hand gestures that let you see your battery by holding your hand one way, and see your control panel by holding your hand another way. So some additional hand gestures. One of the most interesting features of Vision OS was a larger screen on your MacBook or your Mac desktop. So the screen can be a 8K screen and be very, very wide. So kind of a surrounding screen. So that's pretty much here. The APIs are the systems that developers use to develop for the Vision Pro. So they've added some interesting APIs here to let developers take advantage of Vision OS. So you're probably wondering if my phone is going to be compatible with iOS 18. So basically, if you have an iPhone SE, second generation or newer, or an iPhone XR or newer, you can use most of iOS 18. But when it comes to Apple Intelligence, you're going to need an iPhone 15 Pro or later. So if you have one of these older phones, you may want to think about upgrading in September when the new iPhones come out. And of course, everything we're talking about here is coming out basically in September or sometime in the fall. There will be a public beta out in July, and we'll probably talk about that then. But don't get too excited about these features because they're a few months away. So on iOS 18, you can now customize the home screen by arranging the app icons so that they work in conjunction with your wallpaper pictures. And you can also add some color scheme so you can basically color code your icons. So that looks like this. You see the wallpaper of the dog. So the icons are located here to the right of the dog and below the dog, so it doesn't interfere with the cute dog's face. And this same kind of technique is available for your control center icons. And also you'll be able to swipe through different pages of Control Center so you have more control. So you'll have your main controls, then you can have a swipe through to home controls, and then media playback controls. And so it works the same as you're used to with your home page icons. You can see the little minus signs here on the top left of the icons. So you can move any of these now anywhere you want. And you can even customize when you are in the lock screen. You have a flashlight in the lower left-hand corner and the camera in the lower right-hand corner. You can now change those to something that you would prefer. So lots of ways to make your iPhone truly yours. Messages has a feature that lets you react to messages with any emoji. And you can also customize your text. You could do bold, italicize, underline, and strike through. So here is a messages screen. You can see here is bold, italic, underscore, and strike through. Here they're sending a message saying, hopefully no one will notice my leg bouncing, and they are clicking on jitter down here to give that text a jittering animation. So that's going to be kind of fun. You can now schedule messages for later. You could schedule emails for later, but now messages can be scheduled for delivery at a later time. So if you're a night owl, you won't have to send those messages at 1 o'clock in the morning to somebody that might be asleep. So the way that works is you schedule your message. You can see here it says it's going to be delivered tomorrow at 10 a.m. So you can plan ahead and get those messages so you don't forget them and have them deliver when it's most appropriate. Most appropriate. Easy for me to say. So this is a really nice feature, messages via satellite. Now, they did have messages via satellite for emergencies only before, but now you can send any message to anybody via satellite when you don't have cellular coverage. The only catch is that you need to have an iPhone 14 or later to take advantage of that feature. So another reason to look at upgrading your phone. So in Maps on your iPhone, they have added topographical maps, and then they have this nice feature where you can search for trails. So they typed in hikes in Sequoia, and they got these different trails, and you can see here's a trail on the topographical map. So if you're into hiking, that could be very helpful. Another helpful feature is tap to pay. So now, you know, in Apple Pay, you would have to go into messages and you would have to find the person you want to pay and then put the amount in messages. So now, without giving up any of your personal information like your name or your phone number, if you have somebody with an iPhone that you need to pay or receive money from, you just tap the phones together and the transaction takes place without any personal information being exchanged. So another spoke in Apple's privacy wheel. I just made that up. Health has some nice features. This is the journaling app as part of Health. So you can see they put a picture in here. They wrote in the journal. And then down here, they were able to quantify their mood. Over here on the right, we have some insights. So a streak of 12 weeks of being consistent with your workouts. So you can see some of these other things. They journaled for 43 days. I'm not sure what this means. If they visited restaurants 11 times, I'm not sure what that one is. And they wrote 6.1 thousand words in their journal. So just another way to kind of keep track of your health and stay in good health. So in the audio and home, they announced some other features, like you can have now live captions on FaceTime calls. On your Apple TV, there's some new screensavers, including Snoopy and Friends. When you go to mute, it will automatically turn on subtitles. Here's a great feature for some of us that are having trouble hearing dialogue on TV. They are enhancing the dialogue for TV receivers and Bluetooth speakers. If you have a robot vacuum, you can now control that in the Home app. If you're using AirPods Pro and you get a phone call, you can answer it by shaking your head up and down, or you can send it to voicemail by shaking your head right to left. Speaking of AirPods Pro, they have voice isolation now, so that if you're in a noisy area, it will block the background noise so that the person you're talking to can hear you well. This is a insight on Apple original videos on Apple TV. You can see information on the actors and even on songs that are in the video. If it's an Apple original, you can also see this on your iPhone. So that's, you know, you always say, oh, I've seen that actor before. Where have I seen him? And you can look that up while you're watching an Apple TV original production. So this is a great feature in watchOS 11. So it knows where you are. So when you need to talk to somebody and you don't speak the local language, it will know where you are. It'll bring up the translation app on your watch or your iPhone, and it will speak in the language, in this case Korean, the phrase that you have here, and then in turn the local person will speak in Korean in this case, and it'll come out to you in English. So really a nice feature for traveling in places where you don't speak the language. So a lot of different things in Watch OS. The check-in feature, which has been available on the iPhone, which lets somebody know that you've reached a certain destination. You can now pause your activity rings if you're not going to be exercising or active for a time. You can pause those. They have redesigned the photos watch faces, so you can put in photos and still see the time. They have a feature for keeping track of tickets. And they have what they call training load, which kind of compares your past statistics to your present workouts. You also have distance and route maps for your workouts. You also can get turn-by-turn hiking navigation, the translate we talked about. You have interactive widgets for your home control. And here is a double tap API so that different developers for their apps can put in those tap gestures in their apps. And this is very nice here. It's called Vitals. And basically it's a health tracking situation where it compares what you're doing now with what you've done in the past. And if it sees anything that is kind of out of the normal range, it will alert you. So another great reason to have an Apple Watch. Sequoia is the name of the new Mac operating system, macOS 15 Sequoia. So now we know. So let's talk about Sequoia. So up here in the upper left, you see they have window tiling. So it will snap to locations on your screen so you can have your windows organized without overlapping if that's what you want. The text effects we talked about in iOS 18 are available in macOS 15. Highlights in Safari lets you highlight different information. And this was a kind of a surprise. This rumor didn't come out until the very few days before the conference. Apple has their own passwords app. They didn't really talk a lot about it, but it should give you more flexibility in those pesky passwords that we all don't care for. When you're doing presentations, there's a presenter preview. I think this works in Keynote, and also I believe it works in Zoom meetings as well. You have the hiking and maps. You can now use Apple Pay in third-party browsers. This is a very interesting feature. It's iPhone monitoring. So you can see your iPhone screen on your Mac. You can also get notifications from your iPhone on your Mac. So if you have different notifications on your iPhone than you do on your Mac, then you can get all those on your Mac. So that's real interesting. You can actually manipulate your iPhone from your Mac. The same send later and messages is available in macOS, and the tap backs using emojis in messages also available. This is a very interesting. This was originally shown in the iPad OS presentation, but it also works on Mac. So on iPad OS, you have math notes where you can actually use an Apple Pencil, and you can write text with numbers and create formulas and calculations. Well, you can do the same thing on Mac OS, but you would type. So here we have 3 different types of items with a amount, and then down here they add the item names and they get a total. So very handy. And the other big news was iPad now has a calculator. So you can now calculate on your iPad. So they're also making a toolkit for developers so that more games can be ported to the Mac. So if you're into gaming, there should be more choices coming up. And they've also made quite a few Apple Intelligence features in photos, such as creating collections. You would say something like, show me the big fish I caught last summer at Roosevelt Lake, and it would bring in all the photographs that match that query and create a collection for you. So that will be fun. So we'll be looking at all of this in more detail as time goes by. So we used to think that AI stood for artificial intelligence, but now we know that AI stands for Apple Intelligence. So they talked about how they have their own servers. So when you make a request that can't be handled on device, which many requests can be, then it will go to a highly secure Apple server. And that information will not be shared with anybody. It won't be used for training large language models. So it will just be used to answer your query. So it's their whole Apple Intelligence system is personalized to help you do things in your everyday life. So for example, you could say, please show me that product that Mary sent me last week. So it's going to search not only your mail, but your messages and figure out what that item was without you having to give a lot of details. So that's the way Apple is approaching Apple Intelligence, by making things easier for you to find without having to be real specific. But then, if you want to go out into the world and find out more information, Apple is now syncing with ChatGPT 4.0 with no additional charge. So you can get answers from ChatGPT. It's an opt-in. It doesn't cost anything, but you have to give it permission initially to use ChatGPT. And if you have a ChatGPT paid version, you can also use that. So Apple Intelligence has a lot of different features, which we will be getting into down the road. But just to give you a preview, you have a more personal Siri where you can ask questions and then follow-up questions. You can generate your own emojis, now called Genmojis. And so you could say something like, show me a little green dragon, and it'll create that emoji for you. You can prioritize your messages in mail and in your text messages, so that it will figure out which ones are the most important and put those on top. You can create images by hand in Notes, and then use the image wand to turn your hand-drawn image into a nicely drawn image. And you can also summarize audio recordings in Notes. And then they have something called the Image Playground, where you can take a picture of someone from your photos and tell it what you want them to look like. So in this case, they said, put Jane in a astronaut suit. And it did that. And then when you're writing something, whether it be a text message or an email, you can tell it to be professional, you can tell it to be personal, or you can tell it to be creative. So, and you have some other choices here. So gives you some tools to kind of clean up your writing. They also demonstrated a picture on a beach with a family where they had two people not in that family in the background, and you could remove those people without disturbing the picture of your family. So lots of things coming. Not all of these things will be available when it first comes out in the fall. Some of them may even become available next year. So there are going to be a lot of things added over time. The good news is they're not going to wait for, a year from now to add these things. They're going to add them as they're ready. So we'll see how that works out. It's AI for the rest of us. And the whole presentation, including all presenters, locations, and drone footage, were shot on an iPhone and edited on a Mac. So if you haven't already, please put your questions about WWDC or anything else in the remarks area there in YouTube. And do me a big favor, share the GoFor Gazette with someone you know that uses Apple devices. And for those of you that use Zoom Workplace, it's now up to 6.0.11 if it doesn't automatically update. So do that update. And I'm going on vacation. So I will be gone until July 23rd. So the rest of this week I will be here. Next week I will be in Mexico, but I will be available for remote screen sharing type consultations if you need something. And then on July 12th through the 14th, I'll be at MacStock in beautiful Crystal Lake, Illinois. Bob Wood and I will be driving there, so we'll be gone that whole week, driving mostly along Route 66, and then I'll be flying back on Monday, so I won't have time to prepare for Go for Lunch on the 16th. So our next Go for Lunch will be on the 23rd. So let's see what you have to say. Yes, Phil Schiller was the pilot. Apple stock went up a bunch today. Right now it's up more than 6%. So I guess the stock analysts were happy with Apple Intelligence. And Chris is very excited about the writing tools. Proofreading, yeah, that is going to be nice. Save us from some embarrassment. And Chris says maybe this is the first time the stock ever went up after Keynote. Exactly. So traditionally, Apple stock has gone down the day of the Keynote. So it looks like the financial community liked what they saw. So thank you all. Good to see you here. And enjoyed putting this together. We will be looking into all of this in more detail as time goes by and as some of the features that maybe were not highlighted in the keynote address come to light. So we'll be talking about this for quite a bit. I get all choked up just thinking about it. So if you have any questions about anything, you can call me or you can email me, and that information is coming up right now. So have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you in a little more than a month.